Hi everyone, so welcome to another video. Something that I get asked quite a lot is, do I need a PhD to be a lecturer? So that is what we're going to tackle this week. If you're new, welcome to the channel. If you're a returning subscriber, it's lovely to have you back. I'm Caroline. I am a UK-based lecturer. I work in physics, so I specialise and teach and work in the physics department here at a UK university. And I often get asked, do I need a PhD in order to become a lecturer? And before we can even start to answer that question, we first need to define what we mean by a lecturer. Before we even start, it's really important that we recognise that different countries will use different definitions of the word lecturer. So here in the UK, a lecturer is typically a permanent position. So yes, you might start on probation, but it typically leads to a permanent role within a university. And that lecturer position combines research and teaching, and some admin role, but the important bit is it's research and teaching. Now that definition of the word lecturer isn't the same in all countries. So if, for example, you were to go to the US, they use a different meaning for their term lecturer. In the US, a lecturer is quite often a non-tenured academic position, focusing typically on teaching. So there are these differences in what the word lecturer actually means. And it does matter because in the US system, for example, if you're a lecturer, typically you may hold an advanced degree, but because the position doesn't often have research, because it's a non-tenured teaching-focused role, you might have instances where you don't need to have the PhD. However, here in the UK, because the role of a lecturer is both teaching and research, typically you're going to find that people are requesting that you have a PhD. Terminology can be very confusing. I did a whole video on this, I'll put it in the description box. Essentially, a UK lecturer kind of reads across to various levels of professor in the US, and the US system has a very distinct and separate definition of what a lecturer is. But for this video, to make it slightly clearer, we're going to just focus on a UK lecturer role. So, do you need a PhD for a lectureship role when that lectureship position combines both research and teaching? And the answer is typically yes. So obviously I'm a physics lecturer, so I guess I'm more familiar with STEM, the science, technology, engineering and mathematics subjects within a university framework. Because as a lecturer, I'm expected to head up and lead my own research team. That includes the primary supervision of PhD students. It means that I need to form research projects for them, oversee their technical work, and also I need to be involved in the assessments and examinations of PhD students as well. So I might sit on the confirmation viva, which is when a PhD student moves from one year to the next. And I'm actually most likely going to be involved in external or internal vivas at the end of their PhD to determine if they actually get their doctorate. So those two things, the fact that I'm needing to supervise PhD students and indeed mark and assess their work, means that I myself need to hold a PhD in order to be able to fulfil that part of my job. I'm also responsible as a UK-based lecturer to not only lead this research, but to actually fund that research as well. So when you start as a lecturer, you might get a small pot of money to put towards equipment. You might get the department paying for you to have a fully funded PhD student, so you can immediately start to grow your research area, to grow your research team and identity within your university department. But also, as an academic lecturer, you might need to fund and resource your own area of research by applying for money. So these are research grant applications, Various places you could apply to, research councils, private industry. But again, typically to go into that process, you need to have a really good research track record, which more often than not means that you need to have been through a PhD yourself to start to build up that research record, and then actually to have continued into either a postdoc or into an industrial fellowship position before you then move into academia as a lecturer. So a PhD, at least in my experience in the sciences, is kind of a necessary step if you want to move from being a student to being a member of academic staff. You do your first degree, more often than not you will do an advanced degree, a master's, then you will do your PhD, and that gives you then the skill set to springboard either into doing a postdoctoral position, to doing some kind of research or fellow position, or indeed to work into industry, which was my route, and to have some industrial experience. And that allows you then to grow your research portfolio, to grow your exposure and experience to putting together papers and grants and taking part in collaborative work. And that allows you then eventually to spring off and to apply to become a lecturer. So in my discipline, in the sciences, and in my country, in the UK, yes, most people who are going to become a lecturer will have a PhD. Also, it's important to think about the fact that the academic marketplace for jobs is competitive. There's only a finite amount of positions within universities to be filled, and there are going to be competitive roles to go for, to get interviews for, to try to land your dream academic lecturer position. And so having that PhD really is just a key component of your CV to prove to the people interviewing you that you've had the necessary experience, training, and been through, I guess, the academic process and system yourself, so that you're going to be qualified and in a position to teach others, specifically PhD students, when they're going through the same process. Now, I've said the word typically a lot, I've said the word often a lot, and that's because there are exceptions. It is not a blanket rule that to become a UK lecturer, you must have a PhD. It is typical for many of the subjects at universities that you will need a PhD. However, for some vocational courses, or if you're applying maybe to be a teaching fellow rather than a lecturer, it is possible that they will not be requiring you to supply a PhD or have PhD experience in order to apply for that job. So the best thing to do is to look at your subject, so your discipline, in the particular place that you want to work, so the university, the country that interests you, and see what their job requirements are. Because that's the only way really to get a definitive handle on whether you, within your particular subject discipline, need to get a PhD in order to progress as an academic, and specifically as an academic lecturer. And as I've said, in many cases the answer is going to be yes. For a UK lectureship position, it will be expected, it's the norm for you to have a PhD. However, as always, there are exceptions, and maybe some vocational courses and maybe some teaching opportunities within the university will require you to have an advanced degree, or maybe to have had significant experience on the job or working in a complementary industry, and you can use that to translate across to land your academic position. So as all things in academia, it's not an easy yes or no. It's you need to look into your specific area to work out the answer for your subject. But in the main, it is a yes. I hope that helped a little bit. It is tricky when you're trying to plan out your career and your career pathways. As always, please do think about joining this academic channel. It's so lovely to see us have a larger space to talk and chat about all things university and academic related here on YouTube. It's graduation in a couple of weeks' time for our undergraduate students, which I am really looking forward to. But I love reading your comments. So anything in particular you want to know about university life, please let me know in the comments. I make a video each week, so there'll be another academic video up next Monday. But in the meantime, stay safe, look after yourselves, and I'll see you in a week. Bye.